Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sewing up the Christmas Stitch Block of the Month, month 3 for Pastry Shop Quilts. If you're interested in this sew along, you can head on over to Pastry Shop's website. The link is down in the description box below this video. As you can see, I've got my first few months on the wall behind me. The red ones behind me here are month 1, the other two behind me here are month 2. So today we're going to sew up month 3. So let's get started. So there's two blocks this month. There is the Christmas Tulips block and the Hollyberry block. So we're going to start with the Christmas Tulips block. So the first thing you're going to want to do is, these are all the pieces for the tulip block, is grab the little gingham square and the matching size background square. And we're going to draw a line on the back, corner to corner. And then we're going to sew this right sides together with the background square. And we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on either side of the drawn line so we can make 2 half square triangles. Now you're going to make 2 sets of these all together to yield 4 half square triangles. This is going to make the pinwheel in the center of our block. So now that I've sewn on either side of the line, I'm going to cut this apart on the line. Then I'm going to press these towards the red. And then normally at this point we would trim down the half square triangles, but we're going to make this into the pinwheel block before we trim it down. No need to trim twice. So before we can make a pinwheel, we need to join these together. So you're going to have one of your red towards the upper right. I can almost talk today. And then you can line up your next one the same way and then just give it a turn and it'll be lined up just perfect. 1/4 turn. And I'm going to sew these together, matching up my seams here. I am going to trim off these little dog ears. Other than that, I'm not going to trim anything else yet. Okay, and then I'm going to press towards the red. And again, don't forget to make 2 sets of these. Okay, after you've made 2 sets of them, then we can bring them together to make our pinwheel. So I'm just going to sew this one to this one. I'm going to make sure that those seams, if you pressed towards the red on both of them, then the seams are going opposite directions and they'll nest really nicely there in the center. we have a pinwheel. So before we're going to trim this down. Before I trim it down, I'm going to press this open just to reduce the bulk a bit. And then this block should measure 4 inches by 4 inches square. So if yours doesn't measure that, then we're going to trim it down. And I don't know what mine measures yet. So let's see here. Yep, we're going to trim this guy down because mine's a little bit bigger, which is good. I actually like it to be a little bit bigger so we can make it perfect. I'm just going to lay my ruler with a diagonal line right on the center. Trim it that way, and then I'm going to trim it the other way as well, and we'll have a perfect pinwheel. My ruler shifted a little bit. That happens sometimes on this last side. So I'm just going to give that a quick little trim right there. There we go. Okay. All right. Now we have a nice little pinwheel there, 4-inch pinwheel. Okay. So that's step one. So that one's done. So let's set that guy aside. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our red squares, or 2-inch squares, and our background 2 1/4 by 2-inch squares, and we're going to sew these red squares. 2 of them or actually you have four altogether, because we're making, these are our cornerstones of this block. And so 2 of them, or 4 of them, I'm sorry, I'm totally confused myself today. 4 of them we're going to sew this way, and the other ones, the other 4, we're going to sew diagonally the other direction. So 4 from the top left to the bottom right, and 4 from the top right to the bottom left. In other words, you want them in going opposite directions. Okay, so I've got that one from the top left to the bottom right. So this one I'm going to sew from the top right to the bottom left. Four of each of these. Okay, so I'm going to give that a trim. And then I'm going to press these, and then we'll be ready for our next step. Okay, I've got these all pressed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one here, and I'm going to add, oh, got the wrong one. There we go. The green square to the right of the red. And I'm going to take this one, get all this threads off my board, and I'm going to add the 2 1/4 inch white square to the left of the red. Okay. So eventually we're going to put these together, and they're going to end up looking something like that to make our cornerstone units. Don't forget to make 4 of each of these. Now I usually don't press towards white, but I'm going to in this case, because I'm going to press towards the green here, and that way when we put them together, they'll be opposite directions and they'll nest up really nicely. I'm going to press these guys. Okay, and then like I said, we're going to sew these together. Turn it your way. Sew these together, and this is going to be our cornerstone unit for this block. It's not cornerstone, corner unit. Corner unit. You're going to need 4 of these. I think I need another cup of coffee today. Can't talk today for some reason. All right, we're going to press that. All right, and I've got another one over here that I've already made. So I'm going to take 2 of those, and I'm going to, this is not square, this is a rectangle. Might look square on camera, but it's not. So I'm going to take the shorter sides and I'm going to add these 2 pieces to the shorter side of my rectangle. I'm going to press this in towards the white. And then here's the second one I made already. And I press this out, I'm going to press it in. I change the direction based on the fact that we have a pinwheel in the center. So we're going to need to press that pinwheel with the pieces we add to that out. So I'm going to press these guys in so when we put them all together, they'll nest up. I didn't think about that one. I'm going to press this one, but that'll make it easier with that pinwheel. Okay, so I've got those 2 pieces done. Now to get the center of this block, we're going to put the pinwheel right in the center, and we're going to add the last of our 2 rectangles to either side of the pinwheel, and we're going to press these out, like I said. Okay, now it's pressed out. Now I'm just going to join all these together, and then we have our first block done. All right, just going to add this other side. Okay. All right. That is the Christmas tulips block. I'm going to give this guy a good press and then get all my pieces for the next block, the holly berry block. So I will be right back. Okay, so here's all the various pieces, parts of the holly berry block, which is the second block for this month 3 of the block of the month. This is the centerpiece, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to set this aside so I don't do anything with it. That we don't have to make anything for the center of our block this time. It's just that center square. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with our corners of our block. So I'm going to begin by grabbing my 2 1/4 inch green square and my 2.5 by 2 1/4 inch background square. So I'm going to lay this right sides together, and I'm going to draw a line from the upper left to the bottom right. And we're going to sew right on that line. And all of these pieces, parts that I'm doing, again, just like the other one, are ×4, because these are for all 4 corners of this block. Okay. So make 4 of these. I'm going to trim this 1/4 inch away. And I'm going to press that in a second here. But I'm going to go ahead and skip to step number 3, because I'll come back to this in a second, and sew this part. And then we can press them both at the same time. That'll save a little bit of time. So this is your 2 1/4 inch by 4 inch green strip, and we're going to use a 2 1/4 inch and 2.5 inch rectangle again. This time the rectangle is going to hang off the end of this green a bit, so that's correct. Don't worry if you get that and you're like, that doesn't line up. That's correct. And this time we're going to sew from the top right to the bottom left. So I'm going to draw a line. Now usually I just use seam guide tape, you guys know that. I don't usually draw my lines, but this time I am, because these lines are, it's not a square sitting on a rectangle perfectly, they're going off of it a little bit. So I want to make sure I'm sewing in the right spot. So as you can see, even after it's sewn, there's a little hangover. And that's the way you want it. So you're going to make 4 of these, and I'm going to trim this away. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and press both of these. ruler out of the way. And I would, if I was doing all of these in front of you, I would have chain pieced all 4 of each of these. Just makes it go a little bit faster if you do that at the same time. And then pressed all 8 of them at the same time. Okay, so there's that one. And this one. So these are done for a minute, so set those aside. Go back to all of these and then grab your white 2.5 inch background square, and we're going to join, get the orientation correct, the square to the right side of the green with the green predominantly next to the white. So you want the white, it's not really a half square triangle, so I don't know what to call it. A half rectangle thing. You're going to want the white opposite of the white. Don't let the whites touch except that little bit right there. And again, 4 of these. And I'm going to press this towards the white just to reduce bulk. Okay. And then we're going to sew this together. So I'm going to turn this around so you guys can see. And that's going to be our 4 corner units right there. So don't forget to make 4 of these. Flip that on top of there and sew these together. And then I'll press it towards the green because we have more seams on this side, so it'll be less bulky if we press towards the green. Okay, there we go. So you should have 4 of those. I'm going to set that aside for a minute. The next part we're making is something that looks like this. Now I made a couple of these ahead of time because they are a little bit different than the way I normally sew things like this. The way that we're putting these together. I've never actually done a piece where you kind of sew it quite the way we're doing it. So I went ahead and tried a few. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your rectangle and your 2 squares, and that's what you use to make this. Turn your squares over, and we're going to mark this. Now the directions, I don't know if they said, let me take a peek really quick. It says, make a mark that is 1 3/4 inches over from the right side of the red square, and then sew a diagonal line from the top left to the bottom right. And then you'll do the same thing with the other squares, but the top right to, or top left to the bottom right, top right to the bottom left. So again, we're sewing 4 and 4 opposites. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, and I did this on the ones I did previously, I'm not only going to make a mark at 1 3/4, but I'm going to draw a diagonal line to that. Because we're not sewing corner to corner. So even with a diagonal seam tape, that could get a little tricky because it almost is like a little bit of an optical illusion, and I might get off that line. So I'm going to show you that closer up if I can. I made a little mark down here, and then I drew my line from my top down to that line. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one, except we're going to go the opposite direction. So I'm going to make my 1 3/4, Help if I get the ruler on the right side. 1 3/4 inch mark. There. And then I'm going to draw a diagonal line from this corner down to that mark. Okay, so just like that. So you should have 2 that are opposites. Actually, you'll have 4 for each of these. 4 of this one and 4 of this one. So we're going to add this one to this side first, to the bottom. I'm going to sew from the top left to that line down there. Okay, I've sewn down to that line there, not all the way to that corner, which my machine and my brain wanted to do. I had to make sure to go towards that line. That's why I went ahead and drew that line instead of just eyeballing it. So now what we're going to do is you're going to want to trim and press this. Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat today. Trim and press this. Excuse me. Okay. And it's going to look a little funny because you're going to have some hangover. So this is the part that's different. I've never done blocks like this where you sew the piece on and it hangs over and then you trim it off. But all you have to do is put your ruler on your white piece and make sure that it looks like the original rectangle that it was. So this piece should always be 3 inches by 4 1/4 inches. So I'm going to put my ruler right on my rectangle. Making sure everything is really lined up before I cut anything here. So I only get one shot at this. And I'm going to cut this piece off. And then I'm going to turn this and I'm going to do the same thing this direction. So you need to trim both directions. So again, take your time to cut these, to trim these, because you don't want to trim too much off. Okay, so that one side is done. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to use the one that we drew the line the opposite direction. We're going to sew from the top right to the, it's not really the bottom left, I guess the middle bottom left. Okay, and I'm going to trim this away 1/4 inch just like I did before on the other side. Get rid of that. And we're going to do the same process all over again. We're going to press this. And then trim it up again. Because we're going to have that overhang again on this side. And make sure you do this for all 4 of your pieces. You should have 4 of these. So as you can see, it's all wonky again. So we're going to turn this over. And you can do it from the front if you like. I just find it easier to do it from the back. I'm going to do it this way this time first. And now this way. There we go. And then you should have a rectangle again. I hope that made sense. I know that's a little bit different way of making these kind of little blocks. So once you have those done, you are going to grab these blocks that you made here, and you're going to take 2 of them and put the red in between. Okay? So I went ahead and did one already. I also started my second one, so now all I have to do is add that one to there. Put this rotary cutter aside. So not a super tricky block either, just make sure you, with those rectangles, you pay attention because those are just a little different than I've ever sewn a block like that before, the way the instructions were, although it went together really nicely, so different is good, we learned something new. Okay, I'm going to give that a press. I'm pressing this out. I think either way would work. Okay, so now I've got my top and bottom row done. So now these red ones, you've already guessed it, are going to join with that red square to make the center. And I pressed these both out, so I'm going to press this one in. So before I add this one to that middle section, I did want to just say really quickly as a reminder to measure in 1 3/4 inches when you make these. That's going to be the key to make the shape come out correctly. And I think I just ran out of bobbin on the last little stretch here and finished up this block. My bobbin ran out right there, right at the end. So I won bobbin chicken. Okay, so all you have left to do now is sew these rows together and then press and make this a block. Now, since I ran out of bobbin, I'm going to go ahead and change my bobbin, sew this together, press it, and I will come back and show you guys my blocks. As you can see, I have both of my blocks done. I have the Christmas tulips block and the Holly Berry block done for this month. Sorry they're a little bit late. I've been really busy with my personal life, with my kids. My husband's been out of town a little bit. So I know these are about, a week and a half, 2 weeks late. But I hope you found the tutorial helpful, and I will be on time next month, I promise. So I will see you. Well, actually, it's later this month because it's already June. Oh my goodness. I don't know where this year is going. But I will see you in a few weeks for block number 4. And until then, stay safe and keep sewing. See you soon. Bye.